Hi, welcome to It's Time to Cook. I'd like to share a recipe for sweet potato casserole. Thanksgiving is coming up in just a couple of weeks, and by making a casserole early and freezing it, you can get a head start on your Thanksgiving sides. I've been shared with the sweet potatoes. I want you to see this one and you can see it still has a lot of dirt on it. I found that by storing freshly dug sweet potatoes just as they come out of the ground in a basket or in a box and leaving the dirt on them helps them to last much longer. My brother shared these from gleaning in the field of one of his friends. You may be familiar with the story of Ruth and Naomi from the Old Testament. Ruth went out into Boaz's fields to glean. So gleaning has been going on for hundreds and thousands of years probably. The sweet potatoes today are really nice and fresh, new season. So the first thing I'm going to do is to cut the ends off of the sweet potatoes. And before I began today, I used the butcher steel with my knife just to make sure it's nice and sharp, because sometimes sweet potatoes are a little bit difficult to cut through. So what I'm doing is just using a vegetable peeler, and I'm peeling right into my prep sink, and then I'll be able to just put these down the disposal and it will make cleanup quick and easy. You could also peel with a paring knife. So I'm just holding these on an angle and turning them as I peel and making sure that I keep my hands out of the way so that I'm safe while I'm doing this. Once I get the peel off, I'm going to rinse these off again. These have been scrubbed before I started. So I'm going to rinse. It'll take care of any dirt that I left on my hand also from that sweet potato that was dirty. And then I'm going to put these on the cutting board, and I'm simply going to make some kind of thick slices out of these. And then you can see that's why we need a sharp knife for this. Sweet potatoes are a little difficult to cut through, but once they are cooked, they are really nice and soft. So I'm just putting these in a pan and putting some water over them. And I'm going to continue with my other two potatoes. The recipe calls for 3 cups of mashed sweet potatoes. So when you have a sweet potato about this size, you should be able to get about a cup per sweet potato. Bring the sweet potatoes to a boil, reduce the heat, and cook until fork tender. The sweet potatoes are now fork tender, so they are ready to mash up. The next step is to drain the cooked sweet potatoes. I have a colander in my sink, and I'm just going to pour the sweet potatoes in. Notice that I have water running. A little trick that I learned from a relative was that if you have a stainless steel sink and you're pouring hot water in it, maybe you're draining pasta water, then if you turn the cold water on, it will help to temper the bottom of the sink and you won't get that pop from the stainless steel. So I'm going to just shake the sweet potatoes. I'll go ahead and turn the water off. Put those over into a mixing bowl. And then I'm going to add the ingredients for the filling of the casserole. Notice how nice and hot the sweet potatoes are. I'm going to add 1 stick of butter. And this is softened to room temperature so that it's going to melt really quickly into the sweet potatoes. I'm going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla. I'm going to stop for just a second and taste these sweet potatoes. The reason is the recipe calls for 1 cup of sugar. That can be a lot of sugar, and so it's a good idea to taste your sweet potatoes first and just give an idea for how sweet they might be. And these have probably moderate sweetness to them. So I'm going to add about 3/4 cup, because it's going to have a topping on the casserole, and there's going to be sugar in that also, so you don't want it to be too sweet. And then I'm going to add 1/4 cup of milk and 2 eggs. Those are going to go right in. And I'm going to put them kind of on top of my sugar and my butter so that they don't start cooking. And then I'm going to use a handheld mixer, and I'm going to beat all of this together. This Cuisinart handheld mixer has got some power to it, and it's a little loud. So, clean spoon, I'm going to taste this, and I'm not worried about the 2 raw eggs in there because those sweet potatoes were piping hot, and the eggs are evenly mixed in. Just tasting to make sure that it is sweet enough. So, it tastes really good. I'm going to set my mixer aside. I have a deep dish Pyrex pie pan that I have put a little bit of butter in and sprayed it around. So now I'm going to just pour this out into the pan. One of the things you can do is to divide this up into small serving sizes if you like. You know how sometimes at Thanksgiving that plate needs sideboards because you have so much food on it? So it might be nice if you have room on your tabletop and when you serve your Thanksgiving meal for a small little dish, individual dishes. The sweet potatoes would be nice served that way. Now, the next step is to make the topping. I have 1 cup of pecans that I have toasted. They're going to be chopped up. 1 cup of brown sugar. 1/3 cup of flour, and 1/3 cup or 5 tablespoons of butter that is melted. First, I'm going to chop the pecans up. An easy way to chop up pecans is to use a knife that is serrated. It kind of helps to get the teeth in and helps the pecans to stay with your knife. You can also get little gadgets, or you could put them in a food processor. Sometimes I like to just use knives for prep and not have so many utensils or gadgets to clean up when I finish. I want to leave these in a little bit larger pieces because when you're eating the casserole, it's really nice to get a good, nice piece of pecan. So I'm going to put these into my mixing bowl. I'm going to add my 1/3 cup of flour and my 1 cup of packed brown sugar. I'm going to take a spatula and just stir that up. And next I'm going to add in my melted butter. Notice I melted it with part of the paper on top. That helps to keep the butter from spattering all in your microwave. And now it's ready to go on top of the casserole. I'm going to set my potato dish over. I'm going to just take my hand and I'm just going to spread, kind of sprinkle on top. We're going to put all of this delicious filling on top, topping on, and we're going to bake this in a 350-degree oven for about 30 minutes. Again, this would be nice served in individual dishes. And if you want to hold it for Thanksgiving, maybe make it a week or two in advance and put it in the freezer, simply bake it, then cover it well with foil, put it in the freezer, and then the night before Thanksgiving you could set it out of the freezer rather, and put it in your refrigerator to defrost overnight. Okay. The sweet potato casserole came out of the oven after 30 minutes. It looks delicious. It's ready to serve up. I chose to put it in an additional pan so that scalloped pie plate to make it look nice for a fall presentation. So let's take a scoop. Notice how nice and crunchy the topping is, and it's in nice big chunks so that you get an idea of what it looks like. One of the things that I like about the recipe is the fact that it does not have spices in it. That way you're able to taste sweet potato in its purest form. I hope you enjoyed the recipe. This is a season for sharing. I hope you will share the recipe with others. Also subscribe if you found this video useful. It's time to count our blessings.